Welcome to the 14th episode of the Most Serious Podcast. If you're looking for a job or if you're looking to start a business, you're looking for more clients, I think today's episode would help you a lot. In today's episode, I talked to Jonathan Javier, who is the CEO of Wonsulting. Wonsulting is this company which is helping people around the world land amazing jobs. And Jonathan previously was himself working in top jobs like Google, Snapchat, and he was working in very lucrative profiles. But talking to Jonathan made me realize that some people are just meant for helping others, and something about his personality tells a lot about the company that he started. I myself came to know about Consulting last year when they were doing a Consulting project 2020, and I was really excited by the concept of his company. In today's episode, we talk a lot about entrepreneurship. We talk about job applications. We talk about dealing with self rejection. And also, we talk about basketball because apparently Jonathan is a basketball fan and he was inspired by some of the great basketball legends. We also discuss working in a job or starting your own business. Again, if you're looking for a job or if you're going to start a business, don't miss out on today's episode. Don't sleep on it. It has some really valuable insights. Let's get into the episode now. Jonathan, thank you so much for doing this. Welcome to the Most Serious Podcast.
Of course, I'm excited to be here. I'm not as serious. I'm not a serious person, but I'm a funny person. So hopefully, I'll give you all some good insights today.
So I was thinking like having you on the podcast, and then I thought, what should I ask this guy who's just doing some real out of the box work, right? You've built consulting, you've done jobs previously, top tier jobs, and now you're just helping the lot of people around the globe. And I think you're kind of the most wanted man on earth right now because everyone's trying to get a
Well,
job.
right, it's true. Honestly, there's so many people out there trying to get jobs, and hopefully, I'm solving for that in regards to helping people.
That's awesome. So I thought that we'll start this episode with the childhood of Jonathan because I don't think you talk about that a lot. So let me get some insights on this.
Yeah, of course. I never ask about that, or usually not. It's usually just about the strategies. Well, first off, thanks so much for inviting me to the podcast. I really appreciate it. My name is Jonathan Javier. I'm the CEO of Wonsulting. Our mission turned underdogs into winners. But before even Wonsulting started, yeah, when I was a kid, I well, let's just start in middle school. I wasn't really the coolest kid. It's kind of funny. I remember being a little on the nerdy side. I didn't have too many friends. I was just going by day, and I was very conscious of myself. And I think a lot of people go through that, especially when they're young. They're very conscious of what the actions that they take. They're conscious of what their friends perceive them as. But throughout my life, I've always strived to change that perspective and mindset in regards to being conscious of what I exhibit and instead be known for something that's great and impactful, right? So I exhibited that kind of imposter syndrome ever since high school, middle school. And yeah, how I got over it was, there's a lot of different things associating with folks that inspire me to keep going every single day. I think your five closest friends truly reflect who you are. My family, of course, my family was the ones who got me through thick and thin and were the ones who were always there for me. And last but not least, basketball. Basketball is my favorite sport.
Oh, right.
Huge Lakers fan. And I played basketball my whole entire life. And that's how I met so many of the friends that I know today. So there's so many things about me when I was a younger kid, but that's what's helped me become who I am today. And hopefully that someone today is able to make an impact on the world.
That's beautiful, Jonathan. And like, I was wondering, who do you admire in your childhood? Who do you look up to when you were a kid? What did you like? Were you into basketball, so you wanted to be the next MJ, or was it something more to the professional side of like, let's say, jobs or building businesses? So what did you look up to as a child?
Yeah. So I looked up to a lot of people. I think it consists of a lot of different folks. So I would say number one, my mom, because my mom was the one who was providing for the table. She was the one who was only working in the family, and she's a nurse. So she has one of the most stressful jobs in the world, but she was able to provide for myself and my two siblings to go to college and live a good life, right? So I think that's the first person who inspired me. The second person, is of course my idol, the one I looked up to, RIP to Kobe Bryant. Kobe Bryant just has that Mamba mentality, which allows you to just go 110%. He's the one who actually inspired me to wake up at 5 a.m. every single day when I was job seeking and also helping people because I wanted to be as productive as him. So I think those two people are the biggest role models, especially when I was growing up. And then nowadays, like I look up to a lot of different people, but one person that I look at specifically with content creation and building a brand is Gary Vee, a very
Right.
controversial figure, but a very, people think he's controversial, but I think he's very inspiring. And I think his strategies are just straight up, literally the best. So I think a lot of people should look up to him, especially with what he teaches.
I didn't expect that because I was a huge fan of Kobe as well, and Gary Vee also has like quite influenced my life. So that's that's a nice similarity that we have going on here. And
Right?
you know what happened today? I don't know how. Like I was thinking about. So I got my vaccine today, right? And I was
Mm,
just feeling the side effects of it, a little bit of fever and something of that sort. So I was thinking about there was this quote going on in my mind. You remember that when Kobe said that he used to play with 102 degrees of fever and he used to play with a cold. I was
yeah.
wondering to myself that what did that guy have in himself?
Yeah.
Like
Honestly, yeah. I was gonna say, you know what he has? The mentality. I think everything, especially in life, is all about mentality. Whether it's in your job search, whether it's you accomplishing your goals, it's all about where you stand in a mental perspective. So for those listening in, like example, let's say that you get rejected from a job.
right.
You are in turn, you're going to feel mentally broken down because you feel like, oh shoot, I should have got this job. But the people who look at those rejections and look at them as redirections are the ones who are successful. The same thing with any concept in life.
So let's talk about Wonsulting now because that's like I think that's a very what would be the right word to call it. Consulting is like probably helping a lot of people, and it's a people didn't look into that field from that perspective. People didn't think about helping getting other people jobs. So it was like kind of a battle to get myself a job. Now I'm thinking about getting other people a job. So
Mhm.
what happened there? Where did this
Yeah.
consulting idea come up?
When I was in college, I was helping everybody get jobs. And it was
Oh,
so weird because I didn't even have my dream job yet, or I thought I did. So I was helping everybody get the jobs, and I was like, damn, why don't I not have my dream job yet? But I realized shortly after that my dream job wasn't to work in corporate. My dream job was to help other people get their dream jobs, right? So it's been on my mind ever since I was graduating from college. And then I officially started it as a side hustle when I was working in corporate, right? Something to do at the side because I was traveling to do so many workshops and helping so many people that it was like a no-brainer. But then it became something even bigger than that when we started to do so many different workshops, events, especially for those affected by COVID-19 layoffs and furloughs, which allowed it to grow and scale immensely to what it is today. I think we have over 1.2 million followers for all our platforms, which is crazy. And it's like global reach of like 50 million per month. All right.
wow.
So it's insane to say the least, but it's a good insane. I think it all starts with an idea, and the idea grows if you make it grow. If you grow your brand, if you give to the world will always give back to you.
So do you feel like at the point when you were in college, so was there ever a feeling that there is a lack of resources, there is a lack of information that people are missing out on? Because if you had consulting in your college days, or when you were trying to get a job, so did that sort of create a curiosity in you? Because I think that's something you're really passionate about. Like you told me, you wanted to help people, but how much did you miss consulting at your time?
Yeah, I wish we had a Wonsulting when I was job searching. The reason why is I think there is, like you said, there isn't. People say there is a lack of information, which there is, but it's the lack of useful information. So, for example, like I could tell anybody to go apply to a job, which is the most conventional, traditional strategy. The thing is, nobody knows about the unconventional, non-traditional strategies that we teach at Consulting that now many people use, right? So the reason why is because those unconventional strategies that I teach every single day for the past 5 years or things that people have utilized to get into the big corporations like the Googles, the Facebooks, Goldman Sachs, the Deloittes of the world, those aren't seen, especially on different platforms, because nobody knows about them, right?
Mm.
But that's why I was like, okay, let's break this gap. Let's change the perspective of the job seeker and teach them how to actually genuinely network with people in order to get into their dream careers. So that's where it all stemmed from, and that's why we teach what we teach.
Now I remember going through your profile, and I found that you were working at Google, you were working at Cisco, Snapchat, top jobs like this. So there's always a hesitation, Jonathan, I believe, when you're about to pursue your side hustle as a sort of a main goal or something that you end up giving all your time to. So
Mm.
why did that decision happen also? Because it was a very lucrative job, and these were profiles that people dream for. So what led you to take that decision? Let's say now I leave this job and now I go full on to my side hustle. So many people struggle with that a lot. So what happened with you?
Yeah, I was going to say the thing that people struggle with is just starting. I think what happens is people, like for example, probably for your podcast too, maybe you struggled with starting because you didn't know what other people would perceive it as. I think the
Mm.
perception of people that are looking at your business, looking at your podcast, looking at whatever product or service, really does influence whether or not you start. And that's why I tell people you just start your side hustle, and if it doesn't work out, then you can go back to your main hustle, right? But if it does work out, then you can switch it. For me, when I was in corporate, I mean, I loved corporate. Corporate was great. The thing is, though, working for another person is something that's I learned wasn't for me. Imagine you work for yourself. Imagine you have your own baby, your own product that you are growing yourself. And you can be like, dang, I made this podcast. I made this. I think that was the
Right.
most inspiring and motivating thing for myself because, I mean, it's one thing to work in a big company, but it's one other thing to start your own.
Do you think it's as fancy as it sounds, or do you think it's because people, like, when they look from the outside point of view, everyone thinks that, let me quit my job and just get started with my business. So do you think that there is a sort of a struggle that comes along with starting your own business? Obviously there is, but how would you put it or express it to people who are thinking about, hey, you know what, I'm finding my day job very difficult, let me just quit this and start a business. So, like, do you think this is the right strategy, or should you like keep working on the side? So what do you think about that?
Yeah, so that's such a good question because I feel like a lot of people will jump straight into entrepreneurship, which is fine
Right.
for some people. But the thing is, I personally think that you should work in corporate or a company where they have whatever you're trying to build and learn from them and then apply it to your own company later on. Now, why would you do that? Because, for example, a lot of the big companies are already successful, right? Like if I were starting a podcast, I'd go and sign up for one of the most popular podcasts. I try to get on it. Maybe, for example, I'm trying to think Gary Vee's podcast.
Yeah.
Literally try to intern for them, whatever, and learn exactly how they operate and then apply it to my own podcast. So I recommend personally working in the field before you jump into entrepreneurship because a lot of businesses fail, I believe, is because they just don't have the right strategy or backdrop for it. When you're able to start with a corporate job first, you can also accumulate money to bootstrap your company. All right. And if all crap hits the fan, then you just go back to your corporate job. So
Mm.
that's what I personally think. And another thing too, as well, a lot of people say, I don't have time. You do have time. I think people have time. They just don't make time. When people tell me, Jonathan, I don't have time for that, it means you just don't have it as a priority. Like for me, I literally, how I made time was number one, what I would do is I'd cut time off other things that just didn't need to be done. So for example, I wouldn't watch that much TV. Let's say you cut 30 minutes off watching Netflix. Let's say
Mm.
you cut 15 minutes off taking a shower. Let's say you wake up 30 minutes early. You have an hour and 15 minutes to work on your side hustle right there. You make time for things that mean a lot to you.
But why do you think everyone struggles with it? Like, why everyone wants to make time for the things that they want to pursue, right? But not everyone ends up making it. Hell, like even 1% end up cutting that time. So what do you think is the major roadblock there?
What we talked about in the beginning, the mental part. The mental part, what happens is we get complacent. We want to work in specifically a corporate job that pays us every 2 weeks and it gives us a consistent pay. The consistency sometimes causes the complacency. What you have to do in life is take risks, but calculated ones, right? You got to forecast exactly what you're going to do. Like I wouldn't just jump into doing Wonsulting full time if I didn't have a structured plan of how everything was going to work out. If I
Right.
didn't, I would just go back to corporate, right? So it's all about the mental part of it. I think everything is mental, whether it's you bouncing back from, let's say you lost money when you were marketing something, that's fine. Learn from it. Let's say that you lost your job. That's okay. Go find another one. There's so many people hiring. So it's all about that mental capacity that you have, especially when you're growing your business or growing your career.
I was also thinking about the tagline that Wonsulting has, it's like turning every underdog into a winner, if I'm not wrong. So, do you
I was going to
believe,
say,
yeah. So, do you believe like people perceive themselves as underdogs, or is it something that they put a label on themselves because of the way that society has been treating them, or is everyone an underdog? So, how did you come up with that thing? Like, what defines an underdog?
yeah, everybody's an underdog, honestly. It could be your race, it could be your background that you come from, it could be the school that you attended, it could be about the challenges you face. I think everybody faces challenges, which they have to go through rejections. They have to put resistance to it in order for them to be successful. I was going to ask you, how did you know that our mission was to turn underdogs into winners?
I read this, and last year, like when I was, I think probably I don't know. You started a drive. It was a project, Wonsulting project, if you remember. I think it
2020.
was, yeah, Wonsulting project 2020. So I was just scrolling through my LinkedIn, and at that point, I was, I'm still a college student, so I was just wondering, hey, let's try something new. Let's try to get an internship or something. And then I came across that Wonsulting project that was going on.
Yeah,
So that really
that's
resonated with
how.
me. Yeah, the
Yeah.
tagline that you guys.
Oh, the reason why I ask that is because if you know what the tagline is, my job is done. You see what I mean? So you got to have a tagline which people empathize with. You know,
Hmm.
everybody's an underdog, right? Everybody wants to turn into a winner. Thankfully, we can do both of them together, right? So that's the mission of Wonsulting. Because if you're able to, for example, like I tell people all the time, how do you like, you know, Wonsulting's mission? They're like, yeah, turn underdogs into winners. I'm like, how do you know that? They're like, oh, I see it everywhere. I exemplify that mission. That's what's important. People
Hmm.
exemplifying the same mission as you, that's how you grow together and grow as a community.
Right. I think you've built a very strong and a very empowering community. I'm a part of, personally, I am also in the groups that LinkedIn has, like,
Hmm.
international consulting groups and the other ones. And I think it's a very powerful community. People are helping their, people are helping each other. And it's not, so I don't know the scene out in the US, but in India, everyone perceives every other person as their competition, and it's more of a rat race to get the first job. And so people are just turning backs on people. They're not trying to share the resources, and they believe that if some, it's a like a zero sum game or something like that, like only one can be a winner. So I think that's what people struggle with, and I think you've done a really good job by creating that community in Consulting.
It's true. No, honestly, everyone's trying to. I remember that, like what you just said right there. That's really common with our society that we all are
Yeah.
kind of selfish with each other in regards to getting jobs, etc. The thing is, sometimes you can be selfish, but always remember if you give to the world will always give back to you.
Mhm. Why do you say that?
Because when I was in like job searching myself, I didn't have anybody that would help me except some of my mentors. Those are the people that helped me kind of rise to the ashes and ultimately get to where I am today. So that's why I always give to the world. Like, give so many different free resources. And of course, we have like services too as well. Like, we're a business, of course. But the thing is, like, honestly, I tell people all the time, you can always get some of our free resources on social media and all these different things, and you can still get jobs, right? So it just depends on where you are in life and how important the job search is to you.
Let's talk about applications that people give out when they're searching for a job. So I believe most of the people struggle with the uniqueness of their application because it's kind of a very generic structure. It's a very generic layout. And if you're applying for the same profile, obviously, so most of the people will have the same experience or probably the same grades or something. So how do you think one can create a uniqueness or a striking point in their application that immediately stands out to the recruiters?
Yeah, well, I think one thing is the networking concept of it. I think a lot of people will just simply apply to roles and hope for the best when in fact, guess who else is applying? Everybody else, right? So you have to network with people because number one, networking gets you the insights specifically to that role, because then you'll be able to tailor your resume towards those insights, which will allow you to put those keywords and put things that you need to know, especially in the role. Number two, it gets you over the application pile. It puts you into a referral pile or a pile with a bunch of hiring managers slash recruiters, which is the one you want to be in. So your resume actually gets looked at. So I'd recommend for everybody is don't just apply to roles, go network with people, go get referrals. Another thing as well, make sure you actually qualify for the role. Now, why I say this is because a lot of people will tell me, Jonathan, I've been searching for 6 months. I don't know what I'm doing. And I ask them, well, what are you applying for? And they say, I'm applying for a senior manager position. Senior manager position, you're only a 2+ years candidate. You see what I mean? The thing is, what's
Mm.
happening with a lot of people is that they're applying to roles that they just don't qualify for, right? And they get rejected, and then you feel bad about yourself. Go apply to jobs that you qualify for. Apply to jobs that are in your niche or in your industry or in your experience realm. So what I'd say is the networking concept and getting referred.
I think what happens with most people again is, and I believe I've done this at some point in my life, probably, and you have as well. Uh, it's self-rejection. It's
Mm-hmm.
it's not even getting to that part where you submit the application. It's the immediate reaction that gets in your mind, right? So this is Goldman Sachs. Why would they hire me? This is Google. Why would they hire me? What do I have? So did you struggle with self-rejection, and like what happened?
All the time. Self-rejection is seen in everybody. I think what
Hmm.
happens is people see these big names and are like, oh, I don't want to apply to them because I know I'll get rejected. Well, the thing is, you don't know you'll get rejected if you haven't even tried to go for it, right? You're self-rejecting yourself before even going for it, right? Another thing as well is people self-reject themselves when they get in interviews. Like they'll be like, oh, I'm in an interview process. Like, I don't think I'm good enough for this. Well, if you weren't good enough, they would have rejected you, right? So one thing to get over that hump is number one, practice. I think practice, especially with interviewing, with applying to these different roles, is super important because then it allows you to convey your answers correctly and showcase your experiences, right? Number two is a lot of times when you feel that imposter syndrome is because you put yourself as yourself, meaning you are alone in the job search process, which means that you don't ask other people for help. You got to go ask people for help. You can't do it by yourself sometimes. Sometimes you need someone else to help you prep. Sometimes you need someone else to look at your resume, and that's okay. It's okay if you have help. I think a lot of people try to stay independent. You don't have to stay independent.
Do you think people have this concept of not asking for help just because of what do you think is the main reason for it? Is it self rejection? Is it again that competition theory that if I ask this guy for help, probably he will judge me for not being, adequate enough for that job, or, he'll give me some negative reviews and I wouldn't be able to cope with them. So, why do you think people don't ask for help?
It's the fear of annoying them. It really is. It's literally the fear of annoying them. So it's basically self-rejection. Because when you reach out to someone, you feel like, oh, they're not going to respond, or am I annoying them? You're not annoying them. If you're annoying them, they wouldn't even they would literally just ghost you, or they would say you're annoying, right? So what I say all the time is you just reach out to people. If you reach out and they don't respond, you move on. It's that simple. And you can't focus on the people who don't respond. You focus on the people who do respond instead. When I get responses and I reach out to people, to 100 people, let's say I get 10 people to respond and 90 people don't, that's okay. Those 10 people that responded are going to be the ones that I focus on rather than the 90 who didn't.
Do you believe that because of COVID and all the stuff that's been happening for the past year, so in India they have a saying, they call it, I don't know if I'll pronounce it correctly. It's called Vasudev Kutumbakam or something. It means the world is a global village. So I personally think that this has impacted the whole global job scenario. Because of COVID, people are now getting jobs like from, let's say, from an Asian country, living in an Asian country, and now they're going to the US or the UK, they're going to Japan. So do you think this is a positive shift that's been happening? People are getting more closer to the global opportunities.
Yeah, I think so. I think there's a lot of remote opportunities, which is wonderful, meaning that a lot of people are flexible to work specifically in different areas around the world or just in their specific country in order for them to fulfill their job. But I know for a fact that a lot of United States companies are actually going back to the office in the next few months, which is great. But the thing is that remote concept is very important, or that hybrid model, because then number one, you're able to spend time. Let's say you have a family, you get to spend time with your family, right? Number two, you can choose whether or not to go into the office or not. So you get to split time between your family and friends. So I think it's a good change. I think it just shows the future of work, specifically what's shifting in regards to remote work. And it gets people to save a lot more money because they don't have to spend it on gas. Let's say you're working in Silicon Valley, you don't have to work in Silicon Valley. Silicon Valley is one of the most expensive places to live. Saves you money and time.
Hmm. And also, like, the chances, that is also astonishing. Like, a guy from a small, let's say, town in India is now working with Goldman Sachs, and their office is in London or in New York. So I think that's also pretty awesome.
So you know what I mean? It's that diversity is being exhibited in a lot of these different companies, which is wonderful.
Jonathan, what inspires you? What do you
Yeah.
think, like, before going to bed, or when you wake up? So what's that rush that goes inside your head, and what keeps you going, actually? Because I personally have talked through this podcast also, I talked to, like, people who are building businesses, or and doing a job, or doing something that is properly individual responsibility or something. Because if it goes good, it goes good, but if it, like, crap hits the fan, so it's all on them. So how do you keep that inspiration, and what keeps you going?
Yeah. I think what my mindset is I don't live to work. I live to help other people live. I think that's a very
Hmm.
important concept to exhibit because I think a lot of people will work a 9 to 5 or they'll work 9 to 9, whatever the hours are, and will literally look forward to the weekends. I mean, I look forward to the weekends, but I look forward to the weekdays. I don't look forward to, just being like, oh shoot, now I got to start over again. Every single day is important. I think
Hmm.
every single day that you have, especially in your life, you should put action towards it to do something important. Like I remember before, I would just spend some days just watching TV all day. It's a waste of a day. Go do something that's going to make an impact on one person, maybe 100 people, maybe 1,000. That's what motivates me because I see so many job seekers, especially, they're struggling. The thing is, the struggle is real, but the struggle is hopefully easier with the strategies that we teach at Wonsulting.
Also, I think one major part that people struggle with during the job applications is being patient. And I've been a culprit of it, like, many times. It's not easy to keep your patience, it's not easy to keep your calm when you're trying to get a job, or when you're trying to get a client. So what's your viewpoint on the whole patience thing during job applications, or wherever you're applying?
Patience is key. I think a lot of people try to rush the process, meaning like, oh, I applied to this job. I hope they reach out back to me tomorrow. It doesn't work like that, right? I mean, I wish it did. You have to be patient because a lot of different jobs are hiring. They just have to slowly get back to you. So patience is a virtue. And how you become patient is this. Number one, if you get rejected for a role, that's okay. There's a lot of different roles out there that you can also apply to. And number two, all you need is only one job at the end of the day. You only need one yes. Take the one yes and make it into multiple yeses. And that's how you get into your career.
Right. So I believe you also have, like, a lot of Indian audience and Indian clientage.
That's right.
So
Third biggest demographic for us.
yeah, I expected that. So what is something different in that demographic that you find, and, like, what do you perceive about the Indian applicants who are trying to, who being helped by consulting? So do you think their approach is a bit different, or what message would you like to give to these Indian guys? Because I know a lot of people in my college who are trying to get jobs. So what's number one thing that you find that Indians could really work on?
Yeah, well, number one, most people that I work with that are come from India or Indian are the nicest people. Y'all are some of the nicest people I've ever met. So honestly, it's amazing to see that our third biggest audience is from India. Number two, especially for those from India, definitely network with people who specifically go to these universities from your school that now work at the big companies. So what I do is I go filter with your university, and then I go specifically filter to the location as the US, if you're trying to go to the US, and then I filter it again to the company you want to work for. Because then you'll find people who are international students who are able to migrate to the States and land jobs there. And that's how you identify them. Reach out to them. They understand the struggle that you may be going through right now. But remember that pain is temporary and struggles are temporary too as well. You'll eventually get there if you keep on going.
I think that's the most important part. I struggle with this like myself. I think everyone does. And when you're inside that situation, I think you would relate to this a lot. When you're inside that little sphere that we've built, trying to get a job or landing that new client or doing something else of in that bubble. So when you're actually inside the process, you think that it's a very big deal. And what if I mess up? I don't have another shot at it. I think that's what really scares people, because if you look at from a distance away, then you realize that it's just a part of my life and it's not exactly what I should be completely worried about. What do you think?
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, yeah, like the worst thing that can happen is you get rejected for a role, and guess what? You go for another role. I think what happens when you get rejected, you feel sad, which is like implied, right? Temporary, but it's very temporary unhappiness, right? Temporary unhappiness. You'll get another opportunity soon. Don't worry. I've had a lot of people who have been interviewing at multiple different companies. They're able to get so many different offers right after. It's just all about the hard work and what you and your mindset, especially with going to the job search.
Right. I think we picked up on some really good insights through this episode, and
Mhm.
I'm sure people will now reach out to you more after listening to this. And I personally enjoyed a lot, and because like I've been knowing you for the past year, so it also felt great, because last year I was looking at Wonsulting project and now I'm talking to Jonathan. So
There you
that's kind
go.
of unexpected for me, and I really enjoyed that.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate you. Thank you so much for bringing me on here. I really appreciate it. And yeah, hopefully everybody got some good insights. Reach out to me on Instagram if you need me at Jonathan Words of Wisdom or TikTok.
They sure will, Jonathan. And you've been like, the last thing that I want to mention is like there's been a meteoric rise in your content and the popularity that consulting is having right now. It's immense, and I think you guys are doing a pretty good job.
Appreciate it. Yeah, all we try to do is help everybody. So hopefully everybody sees the good insights and is able to get jobs in 2021.
They sure will, and if they do not, they know who's the person that they
There
want to
you
reach
go.
out.
Let us know. Send us an email.
Amazing, Jonathan. Thank you so much for doing this. I had a great time talking to you.
Of course. Thanks so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. And with this, we conclude this really awesome conversation. I hope you enjoyed it, and we'll be back again with another great episode.